Okay, my name is Brett Gibson, and I'm president of Gibson Teldata. And Gibson Teldata installs and maintains business phone systems and computer networks throughout Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky. Around 1980, you know, it was a hobby. I was just a kid in elementary going into junior high school, and had interest in electronics and computers. And then in junior high school, got into and installed my first business phone system, and it was my work. I had been around entrepreneurship as a kid growing up. My parents had a real estate business and apartments, and people would come in and rent apartments. And then, me and a friend started a lawn mowing business,
Cool.
So I like having the money. When I got into elementary school in 5th grade, we did a project with wiring boards where you take a cabinet door and wire a battery and a light, and if you put the right probe on the right question, the right answer, it'd light up. So not a big deal today, but back then I thought this is pretty neat. And one of the things that interested me was the wiring we were using were the big multicolored 25 pair cables that they use for phone systems. And I was always curious about what are the different color codes, what do they use this for? So that's how I got interested in telecommunications. About the same time was the time that the telecommunications industry, the monopoly, was breaking up or beginning to break up. And I would have people all the time in the neighborhood say, I'd like to have a phone jack installed in another room. And at that time, being a monopoly, the only place you could call was the phone company. So I started putting in those jacks for people and making some additional money on the side. So that was my motivation for getting into
installing phone jacks.
Tremendous change in 30 years. We went from the monopoly breaking up to where competition could come in. But still back then it was very adverse between you and the telephone companies. It was a battle continually. Then the technology itself has changed so much. We went from electromechanical systems with those big 25 pair cables to electronic key systems where you had a central processor that ran the phone sets. Your phone lines plug into the processor, and then the phone sets communicated by just small, two or four pair wiring. Went from electronic key telephone systems to the digital industry, where most stuff ran on one pair of wires, to today, which is IP telephony, which means that instead of having a separate infrastructure for telephone systems and a separate infrastructure for my data network, I just simply take telephones, plug them into the data infrastructure, and I have an IP-based phone controller somewhere, and my computers and my phones all communicate across one network. And it's also helped out in multi-location networks for customers that have multiple cities that they may operate in, where they used to pay for lease lines between cities for their voice separate from their data, and separate infrastructures there. And now it's all one combined and converged network. So the technology has taken us from being a standalone phone system company to having to grow into a computer and telephony company combined.
And when that
we don't have, because we aren't a manufacturer, we simply take the systems that are made by other manufacturers and install that product. We come up with our own solutions. We may design something, but I wouldn't consider it really intellectual property that we protect.
So companies
manufacturers. Mitel Networks is our primary. Other companies that we sell for, HP, Avaya, Cisco. So there's a variety of technology companies we sell for, but Mitel Networks is our primary. Well, I did everything probably the wrong way because I didn't have any kind of education in how to start a business. When I started, it was a hobby, like I said, so there wasn't a lot of capital I needed starting out. What really changed for me was when I was a junior in high school, there was another large telecommunications company here in Terre Haute that went out of business. And two of the key employees there, technicians, approached me because I had gone through some things with the city where, because I was underage, I battled to even have the right to install phone systems. They didn't want to give me what was called a telephone installer's license here. So those folks knew about me, and when Comtel was the name of the company, when they went out of business, those guys approached me and said, "We'd like to come to work for you." That took me from a hobby to immediately having employees and a few hundred customers overnight, and I was a junior in high school. So at that point, you need capital, and in my case, I was fortunate because I had parents that I was able to get that capital from and grow the company, because then you've got payroll, receivables, payroll taxes, and all the things, insurance, etc.
And so you ran this company all the way from then and then on until now. So you started like
until now.
Is that when the light bulb kind of went off when you were a junior and like I could really do this?
Well, I think the light bulb for me had gone off even before that, even though it was just a hobby. That this is what I'm interested in, and I wasn't good in school, so there were just a couple of things I was interested in and good at, was computers and electronics. and that was going to be what I focused on.
Right.
So at that time, I don't know what my parents thought about that. They probably thought you need to do better at school.
Yeah.
But that was what I wanted to do.
And then have you kind of an
You know,
uphill-
we've been very fortunate, and I know that especially right now with the economy the way it is, there are a lot of telecommunications data companies like ours that are struggling.
Yeah.
That has been a little bit of a benefit to us because some of those have gone out of business, and some of them we've acquired their customer base.
Right.
So we've been able to grow. But we seem to be growing right now, at least a little bit, not as much as we would be if the economy was doing great, but
Right.
we are still growing and adding people today.
You're
Well, I think
keep growing.
one of the things that has been a great benefit for us is we've always known what the value of selling maintenance and service contracts for our systems was.
Right.
A lot of smaller independent telecommunications and data companies are sales focused. They sell the system, they install it, and they're not as much maintenance focused. Well, we've been fortunate to have a large amount of revenue just from maintenance contracts, which has helped. In addition to the fact that with Mitel Networks, we've got a very strong technical base. We've got some of the best technicians that I know in the field. And Mitel has really started to migrate a lot of leads and some of their programs towards us. So that's helped out quite a bit.
So they kind of like not manufacture, but program and stuff for you guys.
Well, they manufacture the product as well as they have direct leads that come into them in projects that Mitel may sell directly, but then they want to hire one of the dealers to do the installations and the support.
Right.
And they've driven a lot of that in our direction, so that's helped increase our demand for needing
So you
additional
guys
technicians.
are a Midwestern-based company, right?
Correct. Our office locations are Terre Haute, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, and Greencastle.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like I said, with some companies going out of the industry, we are looking at expanding into some other areas,
Right.
but we'll still be in the Midwest area right now. We have about 26 or 27 employees today.
Okay.
The split between them is about half of them are in the Indianapolis office and about half of them here in the Terre Haute office.
And then all those guys travel all
They
over the
travel all
Midwest.
over, yeah. Most of the technicians and sales reps work out of a primary location, but they cover the whole territory when needed. Yeah, I can say prior to about 2007, 2008, there was no business plan. It was, we grew by word of mouth, and we grew because people knew us, and we expanded through that. Since then, at the end of 2008, we purchased the telecommunications and data division of a company called ESCO Communications in
Right.
Indianapolis. When we did that, we doubled our size both in employees and revenue. And it allowed us to bring in some of the management that we needed in operations and sales management. So now we have a plan of how we're going to grow and what we expect in growth.
And telecommunications.
Well, I would say the place that we grow as far as business ventures is because we were always primarily a telecommunications company that has moved into the data world.
Right.
We are doing a lot more server and server operating systems and data network gear. We've done it basically on demand today,
Right.
because there's just myself and another person who are really good in the data side, but now we've been able to add technicians that are good in the data side, and we're getting ready to market those services to all of our existing telecommunications base, which is over 3,000 customers right now.
You're
Yeah,
actually
well,
still-
most of my job is inside the office.
Right.
I do meet with customers, and I still come up with the application solutions. And because I've been in it since the beginning, no matter what the customer has today, they may have had it for 10 or 15 years. I'm probably familiar with it and familiar with the technology. That gives us a little bit of advantage versus a company that was a data company who's trying to sell phone systems. They probably know just the newer technology in the data networking and IP telephony, and they really aren't strong in going back and merging those systems together.
Right.
Well, number one, you're doing the right thing. You're in school, right? I learned everything the hard way
Right.
By making all the mistakes. So learn what you can there. Do something. And you'll hear this from all entrepreneurs. Do something you love to do.
Right.
When I come to work each day, I don't come to work. I come to do what I enjoy.
Right.
So it never is really a job for me.
All right.
Having 27 employees sometimes can be a little frustrating,
Right.
and it's a job, but it's really not a job.
Right.
It's something I'd love to do.
All right. Cool. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate
All
it.
right.